It's all for you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End of discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to another episode of Dad Is Not a Noun. My name is Ishmael. I hope everyone's doing all well. Hope everyone's good. You know, last year I did an episode about STEM, and I had these two great brothers on, Khalil and Billy on, and they did a tech festival. So I thought it was important to do this again with my special guest. He has this great institution going on. It's a nonprofit organization called the Xyayx Institution. I have the good brother Quebutter with me. Quebutter, brother, there. You got it on mute right now. How you doing, brother?
Yo, I'm great, beloved. How you, man?
I'm
Yeah,
good,
Xyayx.
man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody gets the name, man. Xyayx.
It's Xyayx? Okay. I was just trying to just spell it out.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, everybody gets that name mixed
brother,
up.
I appreciate you coming on. What you're doing is awesome. You know what I'm saying? It's a nonprofit organization to get people, young people, into STEM, because I've truly believed that we have to get kids into STEM at an early age, because you have colleges, you have tech companies, you have everyone going after the kids that's in college and high school. What about the kindergarten and up? What about them? They're basically left behind. And what you're doing is saying, you know what, I'm gonna start with them at an early age. So again, thank you for coming on. Just tell me a little bit about what you do, and then also what got you into it.
Name Quebutter. Many things. I'm an educator. I founded the Xyayx The Movement, Xyayx Institute. We also have there's a whole assortment of things underneath Xyayx. This whole movement. I'm centered around Black empowerment, and for me, that's about getting our community's ability to sustain itself and get it to the ability where we can not just take care of ourselves but profit off of things that we do. Yeah, he said he's on the way.
That's the last thing they said?
Yeah. Sorry, I got a studio. Focus on what we do. And the focus is about building up the community so that way we can take care of ourselves. And that equation for me starts with education in order for us to be able to take care of ourselves, from tying your shoe to cooking food, to arming yourself, defending yourself, fixing anything in your house, making something. That's all based off of education. And so everything that we love and cherish is pretty much a product of somebody who engineered. And the focus that we need to realign, or rather one of my goals is to realign our focus on STEM, and specifically in the understanding that is the key component to developing our community. Whether we look at it from bridges to computers, electronics, to fashion, design, media, everything's predicated off of STEM. And if we want to actually be able to compete and drive our community to a position of power, and of course being in sustainability, we have to take STEM very serious.
And I totally agree with that. And one thing about it is you can't judge a book by its cover. You know what I'm saying? People look at you, you got the hat to the back, got the dreads. They think, what is this guy talking about?
Yeah, I ain't got my gold teeth on right now.
You know what I'm saying? You just got to listen. Because the most important thing, I think, is that we got to get to these kids early. Because if you think about the rest of the world, they're already adapting that into kids already at an early age. If you go to China, India, they're already implementing that at an early age. And especially in our community, we're not doing that, and you're doing that. But before we get into that a little bit, what got you into it were you always into it at an early age, or was it something that you just like later in your life, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna learn it, and then I'm gonna create this and help the next generation coming up?
I've always been into engineering. I went to school for astronomy and astrophysics. I didn't get to experience engineering in college due to the choices I made. High school, I did go to a vocational school for auto mechanics. My pops is a inventor. He invented a method of producing 3D sound. I'm an audio engineer, for 15 years, my music studios. I've always built my studios. And the experiences I got from just building my studios, and when I say building, from putting the walls up, I got electrocuted, installing my wire on one studio, and yeah, learned a lot, so that 110 to the face, so send you to the floor. And all these experiences cultivated, the understanding that I have. Xyayx was something that, myself and others created about 20 years ago as a concept for delivery, something that we can, come together with. It's a new name, new concept, new perspectives. And we grab we grab from things that our ancestors done, but ultimately we're just like a new version of what we think should be there. And over the years, it's developed into many things, and now it's flourishing as an institute and the nonprofit. The things that we can do with these, the businesses that we developed, not just motivates, but it's just, and beyond the fact that it's needed, it's how do I word it? There's just many things. There's an opportunity, it's needed, it's fun, and of course, that's what pushed me into it. All of these things. So yeah.
But yeah, break down the nonprofit and the institution, because I love what you're doing is that you're very transparent. Like any money you're getting from the GoFundMe page, you have receipts. You let parents see where this money going to. So just talk about that.
Yeah, we're a fully chartered nonprofit organization. We do have to increase our status. I want to raise it up so that way we can be like $1 million nonprofit. Right now, we're a small nonprofit. We started about 3 years ago, the nonprofit, but ultimately we started about 5 years ago. But even then, before that, anybody who's known me, I've always been doing, services for the community. That's always something that's been embedded in my mind and goals. The institute now and the nonprofit, they're both together. What kind of happened? Yeah, it's weird how it developed. So literally, the space where I'm at now, the landlord, shout out to them. They gave me the top floor. I came for the music studio, and I was doing community events, and I was always talking about the churches and things that people weren't doing in the community and the waste of space. And then the landlord was like, yo, you want the top floor? The first floor. And I was like, all right, whatever. He had a photo studio here at the time, and we do videos and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? It'll probably be a good idea to take it over. So then when I got the space, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna divvy up a portion of it and turn it into like a classroom or whatever. And it literally was like a 10 by 15 foot room. And my sons have always been homeschooled, and there was other parents who connected with me from the community events we were doing. So when we got the space, we was like, we're gonna bring these people together as much as possible. And it was just a room. And I called it the Xyayx Institute, and it kind of just became that, but the nonprofit part, we were doing like self-defense programs. I had something which I want to bring back is the Science on Sundays, because that was my way of combating church. I was like, look, they're like, what are you going to do on Sundays? I'm like, we're going to do science on Sundays. They do church on Sundays. We got science on Sundays. And it just kept developing. And each year it kept growing. And then the woman who owns one of the landlords, she's a principal or just retired as a principal. And I'm associated to many teachers. And so when they saw what I was doing, it's like, oh, this is cute. You got your little program, it's a little thing. And they're like, you don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing either, but I got to figure something out. And, I'm a natural researcher, natural, educator. And so I was like, let me figure this thing out from a business perspective. And as the services kept growing, because I had the space, I started to see the business of space itself. And that's one of the most important services in the nonprofit world, just having a space. And as I started to do more research and understanding of the business, I started to also understand and rather see how much of rather we don't know. And at the same time, I was doing credit repair for free, business development and different things for the community. And when I started to analyze again the services that weren't being developed and offered in the community, I'm like, damn, we don't really have stuff. And then when we look at like typical educational services are provided through schools, and the Black organizations who are attached to schools, they can't say anything because they're attached to schools.
Right.
I have a, I talk my ish, so I'm not gonna stop talking. So that automatically is like, all right, we can't do that. And then a lot of us look to the government to fund a location.
Right.
So that was like a challenge. And I was like, all right, I'm not looking to the government to fund a location. I already got a location. The studio's paying for the location. I just got to figure out how to make the location sustain itself. And as it kept developing, it was like, all right, this portion of the space is only really about $500 a month.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, that's not much that this institute is being covered. And I remember when I was putting the walls up, a sister was like, yo, you should make a GoFundMe page on Facebook. It was Marie and Internet. I always say her name. And that's how the GoFundMe page started. It wasn't like I got on the net like we're gonna. I need a GoFundMe page to do it. I was live on Facebook, and she was like, "You should make a GoFundMe so we can support you." And that's how that started. And Sanetta brought me on this platform to promote what I was doing, and so it kept developing. And then about 3 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to do something more official, institute-wide. Because my children were getting older. And I was like, all right, I need to be serious. And I don't like people not taking me serious. And the most important person that got to take you serious is yourself.
Yes.
Professionally, and so I was like, all right, I got to step this whole thing up. So it was just a matter of like, all right, understanding the curriculum. So as I'm doing the research, and research is everything for me, like research and inquiry. Like I'm working on the curriculum as we speak, like not right as we speak, but literally before this, I'm working on the curriculum. And research and inquiry skills are very important. And I think that's something that's a challenge in the community because we don't have those skills. And we see that often on the debates online that we have, the basic debate conversations that's centered around stuff that's could be easily rectified with, research skills. I happened to beat a murder case when I was younger, around 18. And my father is a master researcher. And he's like one of the main reasons why I was able to beat it. And of course, because my parents had legal money and they was able to fight it and all that good stuff. But those things taught me a lot. And as a homeschooler, I found that most people didn't read the law. And that was the same thing with homeschool. When I was doing credit repair, read the law, read the data, read everything. And with the nonprofit, most people didn't read the law. And I was just like, damn, this is like, we need to understand the laws and what we're doing and understand how we're going to structure stuff. And the pursuit of trying to make sure I can provide my children the right education was all blended together. And that's why the institute and the nonprofit in concept is older than everything, because we always want to do for the community since we started. But it really got developed in these last 4 or 5 years when we got this space here. The institute, again, because I was homeschooling, and I had other parents who were looking at me like, because of the community events we were doing, we had an event called Educating Us. And that event was centered around educating us and, trying to provide ways for parents to successfully educate their children, whether it be in homeschool or in the school system. And so I already had a group of people that was, we were working together with. And some of them were putting their kids back at regular school, and some of them weren't. Some of them had faith in what I was trying to do. I was like, all right, I got a couple people. There's like 7 of us. It was about 7 children at the time, like 2016. There was a bunch of us who came together on the weekend. So if you go back, we were doing self-defense on the weekend. We were doing science on Sundays. And then during the week, I had my children in there, and I had one child, shout out to Bree, who was with my kid like 4 years ago. So about 4 or 5 years ago, it was just my 2 children and like 2 other kids. Then the next year was my 2 children and about 5 children. Then the next year, I got on YouTube really hard, and then I saw the way people were using Google Hangouts, and I was like, I can connect with more people with Google Hangouts. And then I met Sister Irene. I met a brother, Buddha Clinks, and they were both in California, and they homeschooled. And I met, you know, a sister in Atlanta, and I was like, all right, if we use Google Hangouts, we can all merge together. And that turned it into about 20 kids, 30 kids. And then we was like, you know what, we're gonna start it later because we got the California people involved. And so that was literally how we started the Institute. It kept developing. So then 2 years ago, we said, we're gonna do this full time. So we were just doing like random, like it was scheduled, but it was like afternoon meets. It wasn't organized. I was just teaching the kids. I was all over the place. And then 2 years ago, shout out to Buddha Clinks. Buddha Clinks is the man. Like he really, aside from other educators who gave me information, he's like one of my secret weapons in the background. Like he's no joke. Big roster. You know, you would look at him like, this dude is a straight gangster. And he'd be like, yeah, I am. But I have a, you know, again, a master's degree or PhD in literature and education and English arts and stuff. And so, but he understands the code of the school system.
Right.
And a lot of times you hear people get on YouTube, all these different things, talk about education, but the codification of education confuses people a lot.
Right.
And that for me is easy. And it was just like, all right, I just got to understand the code. All till right now, like Brother Robbins just gave me the jewels yesterday because I don't teach ELA. He teaches ELA. And it grew full time 2 years ago. And this is going to be our third year full time. And we didn't know what the hell we were doing 2 years ago. And then it went from 30, then it grew to about 60 kids. Then last year we started with about 90 and it got up to like 170. So we've been kind of like doubling each year. And right now we have more people signed up than all the years added up together. Plus we're shooting for like a 80 to 90% retention rate with all the children that we had. So if we get 100 people to come back and we sign up a good 150, 200 kids. So we're pretty confident we're going to hit 250 kids this year. The structure is growing. I'm talking about like, yeah, I'm like a lawyer at this stuff, and everything is like, everything is at the forefront of what's going on. Like the Jewish community, shout out to the Jewish community. I think the Black community, we're always beating up on the Jewish community, but my view of white history and stuff like that, shout out to the Jewish community. And so they've been beating up on the school system in New York. I know I'm a little long-winded, I'm having fun, but
no, man, I'm loving this, dude, because what you're doing is phenomenal. And what I've done my research, and no one's doing what you're doing. I'm
appreciate that.
Saying, and it's important, and it should be highlighted, and that's why this platform here. So I don't care if you're long-winded. I want you to finish because people need to know.
Got you. Appreciate that. Yeah, right now in New York, because a lot of times parents, so accreditation, back to the legality in the jargon. So we're not a school. I have no interest in creating a school in New York. The laws in New York are very, very just exaggerated. You know, there's the Jewish community is at the forefront of changing those laws, right. But there's so many battles going on right now, and so if you're a school in New York, you have to have two clauses that I don't agree with. One is a non-discriminatory clause, right, where you have to be open to every community. Two, you have to have a vaccination clause, where now New York there's no getting around the vaccinations if you're a school in New York. So if you're not a school, you don't have to worry about that. Right. So as a nonprofit, I can specifically legally only work with Black people, right? Black families who are focused on furthering the Black community. That's what it says in our mission statement. Aboriginal, Black, Native, whatever the hell you want to call yourself, right. That's what we're focused on. And as a nonprofit, you can do that. Now, the vaccination, we're not a school. We ain't got to worry about vaccinations. It's not a government sanctioned facility. We don't got to worry about that. Health code policies, we adhere to as best as possible. You know, that's the law. And that's just the reality in New York. Now, with us being with Sister Irene and Brother Buddha Clinks and a sister in Atlanta, that automatically made us a national servicing organization. And that made me look at it completely different, because there's very few Black national servicing organizations.
Right.
And so that just changed the ball. You know, the perspective gets really, like, that's why I bring it back to credit repair.
Right.
Credit repair agencies, or rather credit debt collection agencies, look at debt collection from a national perspective. However, their laws are based off of a local perspective. Most people get confused in that.
Right.
So you go where it's legal. So in Florida, there are no debt collection laws. So anybody can make a debt collection company then and out there. So now if you're buying debt from people in New York, this is a civil concept. This is civil law. Right. So in civil law, you're the prosecutor. You have to go out and actually sue the person and show the government that they broke the law. And then you can get your, your forms of, retribution. So if you're getting sued by somebody who's practicing law in Florida, who's breaking the law in New York, it's up to you to figure out how to sue that person. And ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So, but it's also not a benefit. So if you're ignorant of a law in the civil sense, that's on you. Right. You see what I mean? The government's responsibility isn't to make sure you know certain laws. And then that goes into states' view. So New York has a state view that it is their job to impede on certain civil liberties because of the financial benefits. Right. At one point, I was against that, but now that I've traveled so much, I really do understand that concept. So back to credit repair, in New York, a lot of law, like lemon laws or buy here, pay here is illegal. Debt collection companies can't, the debt collection laws in New York are very strong. Right. The eviction laws, like New York is very much protective of people. Homelessness is illegal to be homeless. You have to get help. Right. Like now when you go to Atlanta and see 9,000 people living underneath highways, when you see, the disconnectivity between taxation and liberties that's given to the country, the state, like when you go to California and see the children being picked up at homeless bus stops, there's a Skid Row in every city, like you can get a buy here, pay here. You can buy alcohol across the street from a church, across the street from a school. Like these certain things, like I didn't really understand how much they impact. And so all of these things go together. Nonprofit organizations are supposed to be the people who also provide the information to the people so that they understand to look for this. So when I go to like California and I saw that, alcoholism and recidivism are tied together. Alcoholism and long-term health defects are tied together. Alcoholism and domestic violence are tied together. So in New York, it's the laws against alcoholism and the abilities to sell alcohol are very high. Right. In California, it's very low. So when I'm in California, I think I still got the video up. I'm like, yo, to attack these stores, and California is not like a what do you call it? It's not like a project city. Right. Like in New York, there's a large portion of Black community lives in projects. Yes. You know what I mean? They don't own property. Right. They tax money. They're not part of the taxes that go towards the properties. In California, totally different. So I'm like, yo, y'all have so much power, but they don't have the nonprofits there that's providing information to help them understand that you have the power to move these liquor stores, to tell the government you don't want the local legislation. You don't want them to have the right to advertise a naked woman holding a Hennessy bottle with lights on it and sell liquor at 12 o'clock at night or 7 in the morning across the street from a school. You see what I mean? So all of this is tied together for me. And so with the nonprofit and the institute, it just gave me the back foreground to look at the laws loosely. And because we're a national servicing organization, I was like, we have to look at us. I hate Planned Parenthood, but their business model is one of the top business models in the country.
Right.
There's an organization called K-12. They have almost 2 million students in their program, and they're a national servicing organization. And so it gets really deep, the layers how education is provided in the country. There's pro-choice states. I don't know if you're familiar with pro-choice states where the money's allocated to the parent. New York is not a pro-choice state. You have direct tax allocation. You have and this isn't just in failing cities. This is across the states where you have so that's why the Jewish community is so powerful in what they're doing in Ramapo, New York, because their money is Ramapo. So if they play with their money, they're not playing. Then the state has to listen. So they forced New York to now recognize nonprofit organizations like my own as schools. And accreditation, so a lot of parents have the accreditation question. Accreditation is a legal, it's for students in regular school.
Right.
And it's for legal accountability. It's different. Once you become a homeschooler, you now take on accountability. So your first job is to look up the law in your state as to what is required for your child to be educated. Now, there's 2 laws, just like with credit repair. You have the federal law on education requirements, and you have your state's laws on education requirements. You have to know how to argue to both of them depending on what you want. Now, as a homeschooler, most states, you have to get your GED. And so that confuses most parents when they get into our program where they're like, so do we get a diploma? We don't provide a diploma. Now, in order to provide a diploma, again, it's a state perspective. We're in New York. There is about 30 states where a parent can give their own diploma. It's called a non-accredited diploma.
Right.
And colleges, most states don't require, so let me get into that. So accreditation and diplomas are tied with federal aid.
Yes.
And state aid.
Right. And
so how they go about it, tying the aids in together. And so if financial aid, if your state says in order to get financial aid, you need a diploma, then your colleges will require you to get a diploma. If your state states that in order for you to get school lunch aid, you have to be in some form of program that's approved, then that's how so each state has a different way they look at the laws, and it goes off of what you want from the state. So I have a lot of parents who come in who are like, F the government, we don't want nothing from the government. And so they're cool with that. Then there's other parents who are like, no, we want to get, we want to be able to use the school facilities or the gyms or certain things like that. All of these things are tied to the money. Now, many parents live in states where you do not, in order to get in college, the degree, high school diploma is not required.
Right. And
that's called special admissions, homeschool special admission students. Anybody watching, that's what you will look up. Now, there's so many, again, levels to it. The compulsory age push, I can go in for hours on this stuff because I want to get more.
It's good because it's important people know that, because I think to understand is that people need to know the difference between state and federal, and a lot of people don't know the difference between state and federal when you get into different laws when it comes to schooling, just anything. People need to know that. And then also the best example I can give people: learn the history of the RY Institute. If you want to learn about how they became this big thing and everything, learn the history of the RY. But no, I think our people need this. This is this is education 101 when it comes to educating your kid. Now, whether if you want to do it through the school system or homeschooling, these are things that people need to know.
Mm-hmm. And the independent schools, most Black independent schools, children typically have to be homeschooled. Like private school is a form of homeschooling. It's just that you're going into an accredited private institution, but that's your parental choice. You don't have to go to an accredited private institution. What you do have to do is make sure your child is getting a sufficient education. That's a new key term.
Right.
So accreditation and sufficient education don't mean the same thing, but the Jewish community right now in New York is suing to make it mean the same thing.
Right.
And most of America is following New York State's education compulsory laws. In the last 5 years to 10 years, everybody's changed their compulsory age, where they want children to stay in school till like 18 years old. And that's because the schools want that money.
Right.
If they can keep your kid till 18, that means they can get federal aid until they're 18.
Right.
Now, in pro-choice states, that's a good thing. That means that if your child's in a failing city or in a place where you can take the money from the city because it's your money, you may have a $15,000 budget, $25,000 budget for your child to be homeschooled or whatever type of education you want to provide for your child in your city, and the state has to give you that money. If you have an IEP, their parents may have to be forced to, the schools may have to be forced to provide an education, pay for whatever institute that you want your child to go to. Like, these little policies, are different in each state. And K-12, the organization, they're a master at being able to get that money out of the system. I'm not interested in the money out the system. However, it is a perspective that in business, my New York perspective isn't the country perspective. Like, I met a sister in California who was like, yo, it's different. Like, they give money to anybody who's a service provider because of the way the system is set up. So they don't care if you pro-Black or not, it's up to the parent. And so in Atlanta, it's all Black.
Right.
So in the laws, they don't have the same discriminatory laws. So you can make an accredited school in Georgia and have to worry about certain things, but in certain spaces you have to. Certain laws, like, they go beyond what's the scope of what's really needed and go into some other BS. And so where I'm at right now with the Institute is finding ways to become that there, but also staying centered to the fact that we want to provide the parents with the best means available to get their child to the next level. And so we're being as creative as possible. And as parents who may be watching, so we're introducing it. They have New York, they have something called a 24-hour credit program. Many states, they have it called College Now. But if you accumulate 24 credits in college, that's equivalent to a GED or a TAS diploma. And because of COVID, GED.com has now opened up its digital platform. So any parent, and most of the gun states, the red states, you can get your GED online.
Right.
So you can start that process in most homeschooling states at 16. You don't need that to get into college in most gun states, most red states. In order to get into college, you either need an ACT, SAT, or first and foremost, the bag. If you got the money and you go to the college and tell them, like, look, my daughter's gifted, or look, I got $80,000 a semester, they're going to find a way to get your kid in that school.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to find a way, to best believe it. So it's money. If you don't got the bread, then it's going to be taking the ACT or SAT exam, having a portfolio. And now that the SAT, the STEM is the bug, your portfolio needs to highlight your capabilities in STEM. Yeah. And so that brings it all back center, where if your goal is to get your child to be able to compete in this world and get them to a space where they can sustain themselves and flourish your family on their own, education is the thing that you're here. That's why you're watching this. You don't need to get a diploma to get your child into college. You need to have them become many little young experts in whatever they want to do. So if they're doing hair, cosmetology, fashion, biology, engineering, mechanics, whatever it is, you want to start their portfolio as early as possible. You want to go onto a college website, download or copy their curriculum and look at what their core subjects that they're required to know, and introduce that to your child. You get the topics from, this is what I do with my institute. So if you want your child to become a biomed major, or if you want them to be a veterinarian, you go look up the core subjects that they need, and you make that your child's subjects, that you make that their curriculum, and you break down what they need to know in their language for their child, and that's what you shape their mind around. You download the labs. Every subject has labs, no matter how you look at it, whether it's labs or special reports. You have your child create those labs. You buy the lab online. You go to homeschool.com or whatever these websites, Amazon. You buy the lab. You have your child do the labs. You film the lab. You film your child expressing themselves. You make them write down what they learned from the lab. You show their research skills with the lab. You show their capabilities through their labs and through their reports. And you have this portfolio that you present to the colleges. And that's what the colleges are looking for. Kids who are dope, kids who are extremely advanced. They want to find children. If your kid doesn't know pre-calculus and algebra, they're not going to be able to compete. I don't care if you don't like the new math or not. You more than likely don't like the new math because you don't know math. Yep. And that's just what it is. So find somebody who does know the new math and have them show your child, and it's not really new math, but you just show your child that math, that's it. You know, find ways of delivering this information to them as fast as possible. Your child should be at 13 at algebra 2.
Yes.
You see what I mean? That means that they know inequality, they know integers, they know inequalities, they know how to do radical equations, exponential equations, logarithms. They understand ratios, they understand percentages, they understand monomials, polynomials, they understand factoring, they understand the quadratic equation, linear equations. Then from there, you want to get them to understanding, I would say that would be the core, but if they're 12 years old, they should know those by topic.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Literally by topic, those statements there. And they should also know that they have graphical representations of all of those topics. And that is the core of pre-calculus. Them understanding their graphs and understanding the functions, being able to express it through functions. So once they know their graphs, then they get their functions, they're ready for calculus. They learn their first derivative. And you want to keep putting that in their head. You want to learn calculus. Science, you want to know the core subjects in science, science skills, of course, with chemistry, physics, astronomy, earth science, living environment, then organismal biology, if you want to add that on there. Health, they got their subjects. I can go in on the subjects, like, because I don't want to make sure people know, like, look, you don't got to be in my program. But this is what you need to know for your child. You know, these are the standards that you need to know. Your child should be able to recognize the parts of a circuit, the key components of electronics. What is a capacitor, resistor, transistor, wires, thickness of wires, variable potential or potentiometers. They should recognize these components. They should understand the basic tools for measuring. They should know different angles, the geometric shapes. These are things they should know. They should know what framing is. They should know the different types of things used for walls, different materials, basics of metallurgy. They should understand the periodic table. Like, this is the compete. If we don't have this at like 11 or 12 years old, we're not competing.
That's right. And that's the frustrating thing about it, is like when I alluded to it earlier, where you have these companies reaching out to these college kids and these high school kids. But what about starting at an early age and what you're doing right now? So like you said, everything that these kids need to know, they should at least know by 12 and 13 before even they get to high school, like freshmen in high school. These are things that should be a foundation when they get to high school. But also talk about, have any of the HBCUs reached out to you? Because I think that's one of the big components that I alluded to earlier. Where is the farm system? Where is the system to follow these kids that started early, middle school to high school? And we have this system in place where, again, we have this history of STEM and HBCU. Like when you think about the historical importance that HBCUs has played in STEM in this United States, is humongous. But have anyone ever reached out to you to create something like that, where we can, in a way, not track, but just follow the progression of these kids? So when they graduate from middle school into high school, the HBCUs are looking at these kids already. Say, you know what? We want this kid. We want this kid. We want this kid. We want this kid. We're going to recruit them like we do, like the NBA play, like the high school kids or who are potential to the NBA.
I would say that's my responsibility. Even just hearing you saying it, like, yeah, that's just like I said, the 24-hour credit program. I have to reach out to colleges. I got to put that on me. Like, that's a dope, great idea. as busy I may be, I got to just reach out to colleges and just reach out to HSBUs and say we want to connect that program there. Not be so fearful of the rhetoric that I speak, because I know like I'm not changing my rhetoric, and so I don't want to influence or hurt somebody else's situation because they partnered with us. But I don't want to hinder my students' ability to go forward because they're in our institute. So it's a combination of both. So this year, that's why it gets back to the work. At the end of the day, look, my students is better than y'all's. Like where I'm at this year, I got to figure out how to get, all my students glue guns. All of them need like 5,000 popsicle sticks. All of them need soldering irons. All of them need electrical components. They need cutting boards. They need X-Acto knives and right angle tools and metal rulers and all. They need sharp. I need to make sure that they can have all of this. So how can I get 300 kids all of these things so that way we can get them to that space to where they're competing on that level and let the work show. Like what we're doing this summer, they're doing engineering projects like crazy. They may be a little bored. Some of them like, Mr. Q. I'm like, look, your parents let me get y'all. I don't care if you're bored. I'm going to drill y'all. We drilling, engineer drilling all summer. My sons be like, damn, daddy, it's 12 o'clock at night. I'm like, look, parents, if your kid is up at 12 o'clock, I don't care if my kid is up late. Make a house. Make a bridge. Make a catapult. You know what I'm saying? You want to be up playing on your phone looking at the computer? All right, well, make a bridge and then I'll let you do something for X hour. Like, take advantage of that time. Like, STEM doesn't stop. Legos, erector sets, popsicle sticks. That is all day long. Go make something. If you don't have a microscope, go get yourself a little $50, $60 microscope on Amazon. Tell them to go make some slides. Go look at something. Just keep them exploring nonstop. They don't have anything there. Go find something to take apart. Take it apart and organize your parts. Take all the wires, put it in this part. Take all the motors, put it over here. Take the switches out, put them over here. Take all the pieces out and just organize your parts. And just every Saturday, you ain't got nothing to do, take something apart. Let's go gold mine shopping. There's no such thing as garbage. Go around and look for a VCR. Go find I said VCR. I'm old man.
But you know what? With that VCR, you can create something new with that VCR.
Yeah, they even got them anymore. I meant to say printer. I said VCR, man. They're gonna be like, what is a what? A what? A VC? What? They don't even know what DVDs is.
Yo, is there still a Crazy Eddie store around?
Yo, they got rid of Radio Shack. It's over. They got rid of Radio Shack, so it's whack now, man. But it's inside of the components. You can take it apart. You can order it on Amazon, $30. You can get tons of electrical components, and your child is just putting stuff together. Get a breadboard. Let them learn. And just off of electronics, they have to use their fractions. They got to use percentages. They got to use decimals. So they then get used to the terminology. You're using whole numbers, you're using rational numbers, you're using this type of number, using this. All these things, different things go together, and STEM helps them do it. When I have them making their house right now, it's all about squares and using squares and understanding how to get, your cubic feet and your square footage and all the different things. And so everything goes into it, having them measure. That is all data and measurement. Just doing that on the regular refines their ability to use a measuring tape and tools and develops their patience for projects. And project patience is extremely important when you need the fortitude to get through. You don't have the not to talk about what some of the people are going through in the community, but if you don't have the resources, you're going to need project patience and creativity to make sure your project is done. You may not have the money to get the sheetrock you need. You may not be able to get the duct system you need. So you have to be creative with engineering to get to what you want to do. Have your institute open up, have your program flourish. And so engineering is in everything. I'm obsessed with engineering. Like,
no, it's the heartbeat of everything. Like, if you think about engineering, everything evolves around engineering. Everything, when it comes to environment to what we're doing right now, engineering is the heartbeat of what makes everything run. And I think that's important. And this has been a dope conversation, man. I can go on for like 3 hours talking to you about this.
Yeah, man, same here.
But before we end it, talk about the importance to a child when it comes to 2 eyes and 2 hands. If you have that, you're already rich when it comes to this world. Talk about the significance of that.
Well, with your 2 eyes and 2 hands, you can read a book, You can do research, and you can expose yourself. You can expose your child, and the tools for communication lie with your hands and your eyes. Much of the outside of the vocal importance of speech, how your eyes are coordinating what you're saying to what you're doing, and your hands are coordinating to what your eyes are seeing, whether it be in sports, fighting, refined tooling. All of those things are very important. And our beautiful black hands and our eyes were the first to be exposed and to manipulate anything that was on this planet. Engineering was birthed in our hands, from the sisters learning how to braid refinedly to our brothers manipulating clays and rocks to create structures. We were the pioneers on it, and now it's time to reintroduce ourselves to the place where we can become competitors in the world into what it is now.
Facts, man. And then the last question, as a father, what does it mean to lead by example?
They're always watching. Your children are always watching, and there's no excuses. You can try to get them to understand, but there's no excuses. My son's birthday was Thursday. We're celebrating in a couple hours at Area 53. And I told him, I was like, I'm not going. I was like, I'm paying for it. And he was like, Daddy, man, you got to go. You always working. And that was the judgment. Now I could have been like, I could have gave him an excuse, so I could show him a way to make it happen. Rich dad, poor dad stuff. And so, be around, try to do this, not try. Trying, doing is what it is. There's no trying. Do what you can, and they will respect that. My father did what he can, and I understood. When they bought a new car in 93 or 92, and we had to wear skippies, and I got joked on, I understood the sacrifice. It wasn't that we didn't have shoes. We didn't have the shoes we wanted, but he still got us shoes. And so your children will understand your sacrifice. Explain to them the sacrifice and let them be a part of your journey as you get to where you want to be. If you already are there, then you should have the ability to provide them an experience with you. If you're already making that much money, you should be able to put aside time to make sure that they're with you, seeing you and experiencing you. My children are with me. I'm fortunate. My children are with me like, I don't know, 70 hours a week. So most parents are with their children like maybe like, I don't know, 10 hours a week, 12 hours a week, in between 6 o'clock and like 9 o'clock, and then they're shuttling them off the bed, sending them to school, and then a weekend they're in their room. Like, my kids is always around me watching what I do, and thank you for the community support to be able to give me an institute where I can have this ability. I can make bridges with them. I can do remote control cars. We burn things, break things, melt things, go out of state, build things and shoot things, and we're connected with Black people that's just like us all over the country. So I am beyond honored to have the ability to do this, and fortunate. And I want everybody who's supporting us to know how thankful I am to have this opportunity.
Damn, that's dope. And I'm truly honored to have the opportunity to talk to you and just to share the great things you're doing, man. And I know, you're looking down in GA for a new spot, right?
Yes, honestly, anywhere, but Georgia, I've been hunting this freaking sellout lady, hated on me on this spot, and I guess whatever. She was like, "You're too radical, your speech." I'm like, "Lady, your last tenant robbed you. Like, we're trying to pay you for like half the year up front, fix up your location, and I'm gonna fix your credit up, and you got all these connections, and you never have to worry about rent with us, but you're worried about the fact that I say crackers, the fact that I told my students to beware of white people and coons. That's crazy."
Oh,
So,
man.
if you're one of those Black people, that's how, yes, your student will hear the C word and the both C words. CNC is definitely used in our institute. You know what I mean? Like, they need to know about the history of our enemies and the history of the people who helped our enemies get to this position where they are, if we truly want to be out of this position.
I hear you, brother, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. You're welcome to come back on anytime you want to.
Appreciate that, beloved. Shout out to your platform, man.
My platform is your platform, and that's
vice versa. I got to get you on my channel.
All right, just let me know. We'll make it happen. Go enjoy your son's birthday, man.
All right, we'll do. Okay, appreciate you, beloved.
All right, brother. All right.